Hello and welcome to Smash Hit Sports. We have had an absolutely incredible NFL weekend behind us. We have an incredible NFL weekend ahead of us. We have been hitting incredible bets, and I have an incredible guest on in the Fez, noted Cowboy fan, brilliant college football mind as well as NFL. You can find him on his podcast, what I will let him tell you about because he is the expert and all over socials. Fez, welcome, and where can the people find you?
Hey, man, I'm so pumped to be here, dude. Just getting ready to head out to Vegas on vacation, getting the call. Hey, next man up mentality. That's what we're all about. But, yeah, speaking of my podcast, it's called The Eyeball Test. It is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can get podcasts. It's a sports podcast with a pulse on pop culture. You came on our show. We talked a lot of college football. I think a lot of your hot takes have really taken off. For example, College Game Day on Kansas this weekend, so cannot be more ecstatic for that. So thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to a great show here.
Yeah, let's normally I keep Tuesdays as my college football show, but while we're on the subject, I have to ask, you are a Longhorns fan. Red River Shootout is this weekend. Should be an electric game. Are the Longhorns winning it?
Based on what I've seen so far, they have to. I think the Texas Tech game was a fluke. It has to be. The defense has done a great job, had some issues stopping the run, especially against like an Alabama or a Texas Tech. But you talked about it on my podcast. Like, home field advantage plays such a huge factor, and I think that game being at Texas Tech really, really played in there in the second half, especially once Cards started struggling. So I'm excited for this week. I think I texted you this morning. The last 3 years, we got Kyler Murray, and he's got Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb. Then we get Jalen Hurts, and he's got Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb, I believe. And I'm just sitting there like, come on, guys, let's do something back when Sam Ehlinger was quarterback. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I bet like $50 mid-game last season before Caleb Williams came to stardom. So Devin Ritter was in there. I'm sorry, not Devin Ritter. Man, who's South Carolina's quarterback now?
Spencer Rattler.
Yes, Spencer. Yep. I got him and Ritter confused. But yeah, he started the game, and Texas was up like 41-14 at halftime, and then blew that lead in the second half, and I was devastated. So I cannot say enough about how excited I am for that game. I think Texas can get a win. Their defense played great against Alabama. Bijan Robinson is a guaranteed touchdown scorer every week, no matter what. And Card tries to take care of the football. He does a great job. He's athletic. He started last year, so he has a lot of the experience, especially the big games he's played this year already with Alabama, with even Texas Tech, and even some of the smaller games that they played. UTSA is a solid squad, and that was a big win.
They're a good program.
Yeah, that was a big win for me personally, just to see that. And it's like, you mentioned it on your podcast, Michigan really took care of business last week against an actual opponent and an actual defense, and I think that speaks volumes, especially at the college football level.
Yeah, and all things are looking like Quinn Ewers is set to return for this game. I think Hudson Card's a good quarterback. I think he is a perfectly fine quarterback in terms of college football. Quinn Ewers is a 1.00 recruit. I mean, 5-star, 1 of 1. He is a difference maker, so to get him back for that offense would be huge. Texas right now is a 7-point favorite. I think they win. I think they cover. My preseason bet was on Texas to win the Big 12. I still think they are still in a position where they're able to do that. Obviously, having 2 losses suck, but the one is to Alabama, so it doesn't really matter. They have 1 loss in conference. You can't tell me that the 2 undefeated teams in conference right now in TCU and Kansas are going to remain undefeated, mainly because they play each other this weekend. But so their biggest competition is going to be Oklahoma State. So I'm excited. The Big 12 is shaping out to be a really a shockingly strong conference. Like the top end maybe not be like college football playoff worthy, but there isn't a weak team in the conference.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising, at least from my point of view, if you've watched Big 12 football before, it's like 40s and the 50s. Like those overs hit so many times.
Oh, yeah.
But I've seen a lot of great defensive play this year from teams like Baylor, who I think Matt Rule did a great job kind of rebuilding that foundation in that program, and you could see them. I think they're really the best team I've seen defensively consistently in the Big 12. But even Oklahoma's defense looks a lot better than they have, despite dropping a game last week. Oklahoma State's always been one of the better defenses in that conference. But yeah, I think that's really playing a key factor, and I've enjoyed the last couple weeks in college football where we've gotten a lot of top undefeated teams just playing it out each week. Like Kentucky and Ole Miss, like unfortunately for Kentucky, they kind of literally fumbled that game away. But
100%.
But like that's a 4-0 team going against a 4-0 team, and now I believe Ole Miss is going up against another 4-0 team within their conference this week.
I think they played Vanderbilt this week.
Okay,
Ole Miss has a little bit of a they got like a little bit of a stretch here where like they should be winning these games, but
that's
see.
tough because I think for Kentucky, I'm high on Kentucky because I don't know who they play this week, but I know they play Georgia, and if Georgia's still undefeated, and you talked on your podcast the fact that they were losing to a terrible Mizzou team, that's good. But anyways, it's great that we're getting TCU and Kansas this weekend. I think that's huge. Both squads look super electric, and Kansas, I don't know what Les Miles really did there, if he helped, if at all, but they look like the most disciplined college football team. I mean, across the board, their tackling, their play recognition, pursuit, and that's just on the defensive side. Then they got a ton of playmakers on offense. So yeah, the Big 12 football and Pac-12 football all the way back. Love it.
Oh, and it's great to have. But moving on, because this is the NFL show, we can't talk. We could talk college football all day. Unfortunately, this would be a 3-hour podcast if we did. So we're going to keep it moving to the NFL. We had some great games last week, but one thing I really wanted to highlight: we finally got to see Kenny Pickett. He was the first rookie quarterback that we really got to see. I guess Bailey Zappi is the first rookie quarterback to throw a touchdown this year, which was insane. But Kenny Pickett had 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The Steelers ended up losing to the Jets in a close game, loss on a last-minute touchdown. But if you're a Steelers fan, how do you feel about your quarterback situation going forward?
I think Tomlin summed it up pretty well in his post-game speech. Speaking of, they just needed a spark. They needed something going forward. A lot of people have been so critical of Mitch Trubisky, but the nice thing about guys like Mitch Trubisky and Jimmy Garoppolo and even like Baker Mayfield, and all 3 of those guys are in a situation where we know what we're going to get. As a coaching staff, as fans, even as teammates, it's just like, hey, Baker's short, like we got to get him outside the pocket. Mitch Trubisky's an athlete, got to get him outside the pocket. Garoppolo and even Jared Goff in Detroit. I mean, a lot of play action up there, but if they're successful, you're successful. So I think that's just such a boring offense if you're the Steelers and you don't have the talent that some of the other teams I named off do, where you're necessary in that play action, like with Carolina and Christian McCaffrey, for example. So him coming in, it was awesome. It sucks so hard that he not only did he throw for 3 interceptions, but his first NFL pass was a pick because Chase Claypool is a big baby and can't freaking catch. I mean, I used to hate that when Des Bryant was young and Tony Romo would throw a wide open pass to him or right in the hands, and then he'd get
that
picked
tip
off.
ball drill.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's brutal, man. But I didn't realize that stat about the rookie quarterbacks and touchdowns, man. I mean, maybe if Devin Ritter eventually gets in, which we're all just waiting for at this point, just like with Pickett, that's crazy. But I think it'll be good for Pickett. I think he's really going to kind of take this team. Young quarterbacks tend to do really well in the NFL because, you see it with Cooper Rush. Coaches have to be so much more concise in their playbook. I said it on my podcast. Billy Zabka and the Patriots. Damn it. Bailey Zabka. The real
awesome.
Karate Kid, huh? No, Bailey's out on the Patriots. I think the only reason the Patriots lost that game is they ran out of plays. And I stick to that. You only have a finite amount of plays when you have a younger, inexperienced quarterback in. So it'll be interesting to see Kenny Pickett with first-team reps. People have film on him now. And the Steelers' defense is still good, and Boswell's got a leg. So if they could keep the games close, and I think a lot of teams feel that same way, I think the Steelers will be all right, especially in the tough an AFC North division, where they already have one win.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that the AFC North is a tough division when every team is 2-2 or worse.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but the Ravens in their losses, I saw this stat on Twitter today. I was ridiculously shocked to see it, but the Ravens in their 2 losses have trailed by a combined total of 14 seconds.
That's
which
insane.
is insanity. So I'm shocked to see that, but I think the Ravens will bounce back. Lamar, I think I was talking on a podcast yesterday with my friend Jill, and she was saying that I think they're 38-18 or something like that with Lamar as a starter. The Ravens are going to be just fine. The Bengals are going to be just fine. They started out slow. It is what it is. Are the Rams hungover from the Super Bowl? 2 losses. Obviously, losing Andrew Whitworth to retirement sucks. OBJ is out and not on the team anymore. But this doesn't look like the same football team that we saw last season.
See, when you ask me that question, I'm thinking in my head, I do think it is kind of the same offense we saw last season. Now, they lost, obviously, Odell, but Van Jefferson as well, who was a key guy. Who is the other receiver they lost to?
Robert Woods, but he tore his ACL week 8, so it's weird.
But it's those are 2 key guys. I'm glad I got Kupp on my fantasy team because that dude gets 12 catches a game. It's crazy.
Insane.
I'm bummed he didn't score a touchdown because I had a little money on it, but I digress. But I think last year the Rams had a nice soft schedule, but they played in a tough division. So they win the out-of-conference games. They have tough competition interdivisional, and then by the time they got to the playoffs, they just had no rust in that AFC, or I'm sorry, in a weaker NFC. We thought the NFC last year was just so top-heavy, but teams like the Cowboys and the Packers really struggled in late December and early January. So I don't know what we're going to get out of the Rams. I think the Bengals and the Rams are kind of in a similar spot where their O-line is a big issue. They have issues running the football. And then on defense, they're either really good or they're really bad. There's no real in-between in both the run game and the pass game. And I think a lot of teams have exploited that. And, you mentioned with the Ravens, clock management is huge. And we are seeing some great clock management and game management by some of these NFL coaches like Bill Belichick and even Mike McCarthy with these younger, inexperienced quarterbacks. Then you got Kyle Shanahan. I think that was the best game he ever coached on Monday Night Football. Him getting in there, he normally blows leads. They did such a great job hanging in there, and then that pick 6 just sealed it.
Schematically, what that 49ers offense does is sexual. It is just it's unbelievable to watch. It is football porn at its finest. I love watching what he does with George Kittle and what he does with Deebo Samuel, and the fact that he can seem to plug in you or I off the street at running back and still get 5 to 6 yards a carry because of how great that offensive line moves together. It's awesome to watch. I love to see it. But we're talking quarterbacks. We got to talk about the Cowboys and Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, I believe, is the only Cowboy in NFL history, or only Cowboys quarterback in the history of their franchise to start 4-0 in his 4 starts. I'm not going to sit here and say that there is a quarterback competition because Dak is better. I'm not going to sit here and have that argument. Dak was on pace before his injury last season to break the NFL's passing yards record. Even in 16 games, more or less with 17. Here's what I will say, or the question I will ask. Is Cooper Rush a competent enough quarterback to start at the NFL level?
I've been asking myself that question too, because I've been really pushing this Jacoby Brissett agenda because this is the truest time that Jacoby Brissett has had a legit starting opportunity. When he was with the Colts, it was, Andrew Luck might come back. Andrew Luck injured, but he's going to come back. And so Jacoby Brissett just didn't get that offseason, didn't get those reps with the ones. And even in Miami, he would come in games and be a great closing pitcher, essentially, but he really never got those first-team reps. So I think Cooper Rush is kind of in a similar space. Last season, Dak Prescott got hurt going into the bye week. Cooper Rush had 2 full weeks to practice with the ones. and it obviously paid off. And then this season, I think him getting those reps early in that game when Dak got injured against Tampa Bay and then getting the first team reps, I think that plays a huge factor. And he's been in the system a long time. Growing up, I remember what was his name? Jim Sorgi.
Yeah, Jim
was
Sorgi,
the backup quarterback for Peyton Manning for so long. And the games at like the end of the season, or if Peyton was sick or hurt or something, which was very rare, Sorgi could go in and win a football game just because like he knew the system, he knew the offense. And I mentioned like with Shanahan and Belichick, I think Mike McCarthy's finally getting in Kellen Moore's ear and just kind of being like, hey, I'm going to play head coach here. You call your offense, but look, let's be situational here. We can't just be in a positive yards mindset. Because I think offensive coordinators too many times, they're like, hey, let's just get the stats. Let's get the yards. Let's just move the ball. Let's do our thing. Whereas the head coach has to step in and say, hey, I might call a timeout here. Let's reset. Let's figure out something else. Talking schematically like guys. I think McDaniel in Miami has done such a great job. Mm-hmm. So I think within the scheme, Cooper Rush has enough experience. And then honestly, if you have a squad like the 49ers, for example, or the Philadelphia Eagles, I think if Cooper Rush had an opportunity to be in the system for an extended period of time, I think he could thrive. Honestly, from what I've seen and how well he's taken care of the football, I think that's the biggest thing, which knock on wood, because he did throw an interception in one of the games, which I believe was Tampa Bay, so that doesn't really matter in his starts. But I think the biggest thing for a lot of these young quarterbacks, and I don't know if you watched the Eagles-Jacksonville game, but like you just can't turn over the football, both because they're just not as mentally tough as guys like Matt Stafford or Tom Brady, but also like you just kill your team and any momentum you have, and you're already, looked down upon.
Yeah, and that's something that like you definitely need. Momentum is a big thing in the NFL, and I feel like not only in game but from game to game, and having that consistency really helps. What I would hate to see is for the Cowboys to rush back Dak Prescott, especially if you look at the schedule they have coming up here.
Yeah,
you have at the Rams this Sunday, which should be a great game. Then you get at the Eagles, the Lions, and the Bears. I think it's very legitimate that the Cowboys could win 3 of these 4 games. I'm going to be honest. I don't give a shit who's a quarterback. I think they're going to lose to the Eagles right now. That's just how well the Eagles are playing.
Their offensive line is unreal.
It's in Philadelphia. They are just cooking right now. That being said, I could see them winning quite a few games here, and then so we have these next 4 weeks, and then that gets into their bye week. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cooper Rush for the next 4 weeks, let Dak rest through the bye, get back into it in practice, and then come back against the Packers. I think is best case scenario for the Cowboys, and they can still come out of that with a damn good record.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people are high on Micah Parsons, but I have been the biggest Trevon Diggs fan since day one. Like, I remember when they drafted him, he was a second-round draft pick, and I have been harping on them to, like, guys, like, we need to draft a secondary. Like, seeing the trend in the NFL with a lot of these receivers, like, yes, a great pass rush is going to help your guys out a lot, i.e. the Cincinnati Bengals on their Super Bowl run last year. But, like, you need a lockdown. I mean, a difference that Jalen Hurts, a guy like that, makes by literally just shutting down an entire half of the field is so impressive. So one thing I think a lot of people aren't talking about enough is the Cowboys defense. Most of the time, there's like 2 people that get excited for when a team punts, and it's Pat McAfee and Nick Muir. But this season, I am all about the punts here. Like, if the Cowboys can at least be competitive on offense, dude, I am so fired up to watch this defense play. So going up against the Rams and the Lions, I think the Cowboys could walk out with a run. I agree with what you're saying there, especially if that defense just shows up and dominates, especially if the Rams O-line plays like they did on Monday night. But the Eagles game, I'm excited for that. I'm actually meeting up with a friend of mine, Cody Kanicki. He's another Trine alum, big Eagles fan. So I'm going to head up to the Ann Arbor area, and we're going to try and not get too rowdy.
Yeah. Always good to get the band back together, but that should be a great game. And the Cowboys, if they can head into their bye, obviously the news when Dak Prescott went out was like, Cowboys, like, is this season, in the trash heap. Like, what are we doing? They could come out of their bye week with 5-6 wins and be totally fine, still with a chance to, compete within a division that still has the only undefeated team remaining. I mean, the NFC East has three teams with at least 3 wins. The Eagles are 4-0, but they've looked as a division very, very good. Brian Daboll, in my mind, is the best rookie head coach, and I don't think it's close. He is.
I don't know.
The way he has held that Giants team together with what might be the worst offensive pieces in the league has been nothing short of impressive.
I will say he's a Saban guy, so a lot of those Saban guys, I mean, they tend to thrive. The Saban players, I mean, look at what Jalen Hurts is able to do and be coachable. Trevon Diggs, I talked about him. But I got to lean more towards McDaniel. I think what he's done with that program and that market, because I think with the Giants, like, they just needed to start off the season with a couple wins, which they haven't done in so long. So what Daboll's done is pretty impressive, but their team's nothing. They have Saquon Barkley, and that's pretty much it. And this whole Kenny Golladay drama is going too much. But I'm glad the NFC East is a little competitive. It'll be pretty exciting because I was real high on the AFC West and the AFC South going into the season, and both of those conferences only have one team with a winning record, I believe, and that Colts-Houston tie game was a disaster to watch.
Disgusting.
It was brutal. I am high on Dameon Pierce and the Texans defense, so they're a covering machine, which is nice. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how the NFC East turns out. I think as a Cowboys fan, and this is the last thing I'll say, I know people hate listening about the Cowboys, but as long as when Dak does come back, like, the biggest difference between Dak and Cooper Rush, whether there's a small drop-off or a big drop-off, it's still a drop-off. There's a couple throws that Cooper Rush just kind of overthrows, like he kind of lets them go or he kind of underthrows, and like Dak makes those throws. And on top of that, you do have a bit of a bigger playbook, but the thing that I'm really going to be watching for is if they can game manage the way that they have been, because it sucks when you're out there and they try to get too cute and they're like, well, we could do this because Dak's out there now and we could run these 7 plays. And it's like, no, like, it's football. Like, you got to go into the first quarter and go off your script. Second and third quarter is all evaluation and making adjustments. And then the fourth quarter is the real game. And that's where the game management really comes into play. Like, that's how you win championships in the NFL. And I mean, Belichick's done it for so long. I don't know why nobody else just steals what he has. I mean, he stole everyone else's good ideas, so why can't you steal his, So I think that's the biggest key there. And I think the Eagles too, because Jalen Hurts used to turn the ball over a lot, and I talked about it earlier, like, you got to take care of the football. So if he continues with the confidence that he has and his receivers can stay healthy, it's the sky's up for them this season.
I want to talk about one more team before we get into looking ahead to next week, and more specifically a player than a team. Matt Ryan for the Colts. I was high on Matt Ryan coming to this offseason. I was like, this is the best offensive line he's had in a couple years. Obviously the weapons in Indianapolis aren't great, but they've got a good defense behind him that should be able to keep teams in, lower scoring than at least what the Falcons did, right? I felt good about Matt Ryan and this Colts team. I picked them to win the division. I picked their over-win total. We are now sitting here. The Colts are 1-2-1 with their only win coming over the Chiefs, which, again, bonkers. Matt Ryan, through 4 games, has 14 turnovers. He has 9 fumbles and 5 interceptions. Borderline, it makes me want to puke in my mouth the way that he has been playing football. It's like watching an old man out there.
He is.
Am I crazy for thinking that the Colts should think about Sam Ehlinger?
Well, as a Texas fan, selfishly, I want to say yes, because I thought the guy has a great arm and he's athletic behind this offensive line. But it's tough in the NFL. I've seen in college football, it's great. Transfer portal, new quarterback, boom, USC's back. We've seen that time and time again. But I think in the NFL, like you've gone through the Colts have gone through 3 quarterbacks in 3 seasons. One of those seasons was a COVID year, again with an older, past his prime quarterback in Rivers, a younger, past his prime Carson Wentz, and now the same thing with Matt Ryan. Honestly, it has to be frustrating for him because you mentioned Colts having their offensive line. They were supposed to be so great. Quentin Nelson is the next Zach Martin, basically. And you got Kelly back. He's not injured. You added Alec Pierce, who I was really high on because I watched him play at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I know you did too.
Damn good.
I remember when Marvin Harrison retired and the Colts pretty much just had Reggie Wayne for like a minute. And Pierre Garçon was, I think, real young or a free agent. And like I think Reggie Wayne struggled a little bit too, being a WR1, and we've seen it with CeeDee Lamb, and even in other places like Baltimore, Devin DuVernay, another Texas alum, like he's getting more acclimated to the offense now without Hollywood Brown. So I'm glad that they finally drafted Michael Pittman Jr., but then you don't re-sign T.Y. Hilton, which I'm okay with. I've never been high on him either.
I think he's just he's passed. Like I like T.Y., but he's just not the guy that he was.
Correct, and he's hurt all the time, and you can't have that in a receiver. Look at Julio Jones, like what his career happened. Yep. But like, why did you wait to the end of T.Y. Hilton's career, basically with the Colts, and get Michael Pittman Jr.? Like, look at these great receivers that have been drafted in the last 3-4 years that the Colts could have easily had gotten. You got Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd round. Like, what the hell were you thinking not getting a receiver, finally? And I think a lot of it has to do with Matt Ryan thinking he's going into a good situation and then it not being what he thought. I think it really is a culture thing. The Colts need to bring back that swagger because the Colts fans are tired of seeing the same product. Like, is Andrew Luck playing or is he not playing? Is he playing? Is he not playing? Andrew Luck retires. Oh, now what are we going to do? Oh, we're just going to rotate between the next 3-4 years of just random quarterbacks. Like, you drafted a guy in Sam Ehlinger, and I think to your point, maybe if they keep losing, you may as well just put him in there. He's got a year of experience under his belt. He played in college for 4 years at a high level. And I mean, he scored a 80-yard touchdown run in the preseason. Yeah. Like,
I don't know, and it's tough. And like everybody gave who's the Colts GM?
Grigson?
No, not Grigson.
Oh
Grigson
no, it was
sucked.
Grigson. Yeah,
it was Grigson. Who is it now? It is Chris Ballard. Everybody gave Chris Ballard his flowers because he had a couple amazing drafts, and I get it because he picked Quentin Nelson and Shaq Leonard, and then he got Nyheim Hines and Rocky Ya-Sin, and like they had really good drafts back to back to back to back, pretty much, and that was great. But then now we're sitting here and we're looking at like 2019. They drafted Paris Campbell, swing and a miss at wide receiver.
Yep.
Ben Benogu at defensive end. You ever heard of him? Me neither.
No.
Like they had Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor and Julian Blackmon. 3 great picks in 2020.
Yeah.
But outside of that, not
but Blackman's
much.
been injured.
And then 2021, Kwity Paye has not shown anything.
I don't know. I think he's had some moments.
Not for a first round pick.
Oh yeah, I guess I agree with you there.
Like the receivers that were on the board at that point were incredible, and I don't know. It's tough. I think the Colts have a lot to fix, but at the same time, this is still a winnable division. Like there are not many divisions where you can sit at 1-2-1 and say it's a winnable division. The AFC South is that. Yeah. I know the Jaguars have looked pretty solid. The Titans looked pretty solid, but both of those teams have flaws. The Colts obviously have their own. I think this is a division that's going to come down to the wire.
I think, honestly, the whole NFL, like, I know I have a theory in college football. One of the main reasons this season has been so great is that we have so many experienced guys playing the game because a lot of people medically redshirted during the COVID year in 2020. Mm-hmm. And so we have some like 23, 24-year-olds playing, and that's why these teams like Appalachian State are able to beat a Texas A&M because they might have more age and size and experience. And I think on the flip side with the NFL, Roger Goodell has done such a good job, I think, being a little more hands-off and pushing the brand forward, at least from a fan standpoint, like with Amazon and even ESPN, things like that. but then these owners and these GMs, like, they've really started to kind of get their claws into these teams and rebuild cultures and just, Urban Meyer doesn't work out, fired. Let's bring in the next guy. Just kind of having this revolving door and just saying, like, look, anybody could be on the hot seat. And Eagles are 4-0, but they're vulnerable. Their run defense is not very good, and they haven't really seen a good offense, especially since they got a great pass rush against Jacksonville. So
yeah, outside of the Lions, like, they have not been tested, which crazy
the Lions
to say, but
crushed
their
them.
offense has looked incredible.
Yeah. Well, and Jalen Hurts on third down, like, he's going to scramble. It's just like Kelsey or Cooper Kupp on third down. But, yeah, I digress. I think it's anybody's league at this point. We thought the AFC was stacked. It still kind of is, but with injuries and whatnot, like, teams like the Chargers are struggling. So it's going to be interesting to see how the season plays out, because honestly, I don't even know if I want to sports bet anymore, because I am clueless every week, especially, God, these freaking 1 o'clock slates. Can we stop putting the good teams at 1 o'clock and put them later? Like, I'm tired of watching the Bills at 1 o'clock.
Oh, I love it. Let's get into this week. So we might as well get on there. And guess what? I'm going to make you make some picks. I know you don't want to gamble, but guess what? We're back. This is a gambling show. It's what we do. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. We get the Colts' high-powered offense, which have scored the least amount of points in the NFL this season through 4 weeks. And you get the Broncos' offense. Let's ride. Javonte Williams is now out for the season with a torn ACL. Colts are 3-point dogs against the Broncos in Denver. Over-unders 42.5. How do we feel about this game?
I'm not too sure. I heard Peyton Manning on the Manning cast say, it's Colts versus Broncos. Either team wins, I win. I was like, yeah, it must be nice. But I did see the Broncos got Latavius Murray somehow. That was a shock. But I think Russ will figure it out. Their defense is still talented, so they can make plays. Unless Matt Ryan goes God mode, the Colts defense has done a pretty good job in the second half from what I've seen, even last week with Tennessee and in the first week against Houston, obviously against Kansas City. So their defense can still get it done. But I think I'm going to go Denver here with the home advantage.
Yeah, I think Denver wins the game. I do think it'll be close. I'm not betting on either side in this one, but I do like the under 42.5. I think this is going to be a low-scoring primetime game.
Hey, be careful.
It seems like we've just seen a lot of that.
I have also, which is why I was hammering. I put a bet down that both teams on Sunday Night Football would kick over 1.5 field goals, because it was Tampa Bay and the Chiefs. And the Chiefs just lost to the Colts, and Tampa Bay's got a great defense. And then that game was a shootout. I was like, what the heck was our thinking? So be careful. Be careful.
That's fair. I'm still riding my under.
Awesome.
We got the London game. Packers are 8.5-point favorites over the Giants. Over-unders 41.5. I like the Giants to cover in this one. 8.5 points is a lot of points to give a 3-1 team. I'm going to be honest. In London, might be a low-scoring game. It seems like every Packers game has been low-scoring this year. I just don't trust them to cover 8.5 points.
Yeah, I would just go Packers money line if I had to bet here, because I don't know if Danny Dimes is playing or not.
I guess that does. Yeah, I guess that makes a big difference on whether
but
if
8.5
Dimes, if it's
8.5's too much in the NFL. Like,
cool. That is a game.
So
if it was not the London game, I would not watch it. But it'll be on at 9:30, so I'll throw it on. But I'm not going out of my way to be like, oh, there's appointment television. If it was a 1 o'clock game, it would not be on the TV.
No.
Seahawks and Saints, do we care? I don't.
I think Seahawks take that one. Dude,
they're 5.5-point dogs.
I know. That's why wouldn't you take the points there? I mean, I liked what I saw out of the Saints and Andy Dalton last week, but I mean they just make so many mental errors. It's frustrating. So the Seahawks are a disciplined team, and I mean their offense was moving last week.
Yeah, I don't hate riding with the Seahawks here. We'll see if Michael Thomas plays too. I think that'll be important in this one. The largest spread. Anybody who drafted him in fantasy has to just be like, I'm so tired of this.
And Alvin Kamara, both of them.
It's crazy. We get Steelers at Bills. This is the largest spread we've had in the NFL so far this season. Kenny Pickett, it has been announced as the starter. The game is in Buffalo. The Bills are 14-point favorites. I'm taking the
tough.
Steelers out of principle, I guess, because
So-
like Mike Tomlin is an underdog, but
Yeah, but that backfired though. The Browns won.
yeah,
I'm gonna take the Bills here. I think the Bills need to make a statement. There's no hurricane winds this week. I think a lot of people discounted that. I hit on 4 unders last week because I saw like winds up to 30 miles, 35. I was like, oh, under, and all those hit. Let's take Bills with the points. Give me the money there because I don't think Pickett's gonna get it done, and I think there's enough film on him to where the Bills defense. I mean, Poyer's a stud, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's
and
great.
The Steelers' defense against the run game, I don't see them stopping Josh Allen, and I'm pretty sure Cam Hayward went out in the game last week, so I believe he's questionable as of this moment.
Which they were already down T.J. Watt. That would be a massive loss for that defensive line.
Yep.
Keeping it moving, Bears and Vikings. Vikings are 7-point favorites. I like the Vikings in this one. I do not trust the Bears offense. I think at home in Minnesota, I think this is a great get-right spot for the Vikings. They've had some crazy games the last 2 weeks. I think they settle down, get right here against the Bears. And the Vikings take the lead in that division.
I'm gonna take Bears in the points here. I've liked what I've seen from them this season. I think Justin Fields has gotten better every game. He's not great, but he's a big physical guy, so I don't think the Vikings pass rush will get to him as much. But if the Bears can stick to the ground game and their defense shows up, I mean, I think they cover at least.
That's fair. Another crazy stat that I saw this week. Cooper Kupp has more receptions than Justin Fields has completions. That's absolutely bonkers.
That's
absolutely
insane.
bonkers.
Oh my god.
Gonna skip over a couple games here on FanDuel. Falcons at Bucks. I like the Falcons +9. Over unders 48.5. Both of these teams are 2-2. The Falcons have kept, even in their 2 losses, the Falcons kept those games close. Like they covered against the Rams. Like they're the only team, I believe, they're the only NFL team that is 4-0 against the spread.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I bet on them every game this year.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna take the Bucks on the money line there. No way Tom Brady drops 3 games.
Yeah, Atlanta's 4-0 against the spread, so I'll take them at +9. But yeah, I agree. I think the Bucks do win this game for sure.
I'm too afraid to watch Tom Brady just turn it on. I mean, we've seen that we've seen that too many times. Where I believe didn't he lose to the Rams 2 years ago, and then like they crushed the Packers the next week.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want that happening to me. So I'm taking the money line there.
I agree. Let's move on to the 4:00 games. Niners at Panthers. Niners are only 6.5-point favorites. I'm going to bet that before that line moves.
Yeah.
The Panthers stink.
Yeah,
stink.
Baker can't do anything, man.
The over/under for that game is 38.5. That's an Iowa total.
I know.
That's gross. That is gross.
Yeah, unless San Francisco hits their stride, which could happen. So
I was going to say, yeah, the you're more likely to have the Niners score 38 points than the Panthers help you there.
Yeah.
Eagles are going to the Cardinals. Jalen Hurts against Kyler Murray. 2 Oklahoma quarterbacks going at it. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites on the road. Over/unders 48.5. I like the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. The Eagles' defense has been suspect at times. It didn't look good against the Lions. And I think this Cardinals defense sucks. I like the over.
Yeah.
I'd probably take the Eagles on the points, but
I'm taking the Eagles on the points there. I mean, I think this is a game where Jalen Hurts makes a statement, goes out there, puts a bunch of points on the board. I mean, they have to at this point, especially against an inferior opponent.
All right, we got to talk about them. You knew we were going to talk about them. I'm going to make you make a prediction. Not only do I want the prediction of the spread, I want you to predict the score down to the numbers. Give it to me.
All right.
The Cowboys are 4.5-point dogs in LA against the Rams. How does this game play out? Who's winning? What's the final score? What do we got?
I think plus some 4.5 is fair. Wow, that's very generous for the Cowboys. I mean, if they lose, it could be by field goal. But that Dallas Cowboys defense is really good. I mean, they're way better than San Francisco, so they'll get after Stafford. Stafford could turn the ball over. So if the Cowboys offense can game manage, I think the Cowboys walk away with a win, or at least keep it close. I don't know about the points because their offense really hasn't been firing on all cylinders, but we got Michael Gallup back in his second week, so they could definitely put up more than 20 points. So I'd say Cowboys Rams like a 23-19 maybe.
I like that. First off, 23-19, little Monsters Inc. shout out, but I was gonna say like 23-17, 23-20. I will be taking the Cowboys to cover, and I'll also be sprinkling money line on them. Another bet, it's not out on FanDuel yet. They don't have the player props out, but an interception prop that I know I'm going to love is Matthew Stafford to throw an interception against this Cowboys team that has been great at forcing turnovers over the last 2 seasons. So I'll absolutely be hammering that. Sunday Night Football, Bengals at Ravens.
Yes.
In my opinion, and what should be a phenomenal Sunday Night Football game. The Bengals are 3-point dogs in Baltimore. Over-under is 48.5. I like the over. I think this is going to be 2 quarterbacks strutting their shit, showing why they are 2 of the best in the league. Bengals win.
Oh, 100%.
Dubs.
I think here's the Ravens and the Bengals. It's kind of hilarious if you think about the game. You played in your head. So for the Bengals to win, they have to just contain Lamar Jackson for the first half. Like, keep it close.
Yep.
Like, under 14, 13 points, because they are obviously a second-half team, and the Ravens are obviously a first-half team. I mean, they've blown leads 3 weeks in a row, and they've had huge leads. I mean, it was like 20-3. I think they were up 3 touchdowns against Miami. I mean, I guess the Patriots, they started turning the ball over late, but I mean, I know the Ravens did have a big lead in that game as well, but I think the Bengals defense is better than people give them credit for. Their D-line's pretty solid in the run game, honestly, and they can get after quarterback. Love Hubbard. Love the, who's the new young D-lineman?
Joseph Asai from Texas.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I was like, I knew. Yeah, he's been balling out, especially the last 2 weeks. So I think Jesse Bates is the captain. He's rallying that team around on the defensive side. The biggest question mark is I'm starting to doubt Burrow a little bit. He's really letting the ball go over his head. I've seen Joe Mixon on screen passes jump in, and then he can't get anything going because he stops his momentum. Guys like Jamar Chase, Ty Boyd, and T. Higgins are making these amazing catches. Like, Burrow needs to really work on his accuracy a little. But I think overall, the Bengals getting a win at Miami, having a couple extra rest days moving forward, like, they're on the up and up. Whereas the Ravens, on the other hand, I mean, a tough loss against Miami, tough loss against the Bills last week. I mean, those are 2 crucial games where they pretty much blew it against a team that has the ability to be a high-powered offense late, and we saw that in both games, and I think we'll see that this weekend.
Yeah, I like the Bengals this week. One thing that I will be taking is their team total. I like the 48.5, but I'll absolutely be taking the team total. It looks like the Bengals team total is 22.5. I think they absolutely hit that number. The Ravens defense is allowing an average of 25 points a game, and the teams that they have played have been the Bills and Dolphins, which have been good, and the Jets and the Jets and the Patriots, who have not had good offenses. So, and you look at what the Bengals did to them last year, 41 points against that Ravens defense each of the last 2 games. I think that this is a recipe for points for that Bengals.
Yeah.
I just think it's a bad matchup for the Ravens defense.
And what's the spread again?
The Bengals are 3-point dogs.
Dogs? Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you definitely have to take the points there. Plus, like you're saying within the division, like dropping to the Steelers is huge for the Bengals, especially since the Browns beat the Steelers. So this is a must. If there's a game that they have to have circled on their calendar, it's definitely this one.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a game that means a lot to the division, and giving the Bengals an extra couple days of rest, I think it is big too. So
100%.
And then Monday Night Football, The Raiders at the Chiefs. Chiefs are 7.5-point favorites. Over-under is 51.5. I know what I am going to take. It's going to be the under in this one. Division game, prime time, total over 50. I just think this one goes under, although, damn, I hate betting unders in Patrick Mahomes games. How do we think this one goes?
Honestly, let's think about it. I was high on the Raiders. I thought they added more talent. I thought they added Josh McDaniel and host of the GM Shuffle Pod, Michael Lombardi's son, as offensive coordinator. Like, I really thought Derek Carr was going to take a giant leap, and they were just going to be 4-0 at this point. And they've been the most disappointing team I've seen all season. That being said, it is an interdivisional game, but I mean, the Raiders just beat the Broncos barely. Yeah. And we haven't really seen anything from the Broncos. So that win is negated looking at Kansas City and what they did in Tampa Bay last week in prime time again. I think Kansas City just gets an easy dub here. Now, they are the worst team against the spread, so I'm not taking the points there. But I think the over hits for sure, because Kansas City's defense has some flaws, and Tampa Bay, Tom Brady was able to exploit them a little bit here and there. I think the Chargers showed the playbook on how to beat them.
I mean, Brady still had like 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, it's not like he played a terrible game. So we'll see, but
it'll be close.
Yeah. Can't wait. We got a lot of great games coming up this weekend. Make sure you follow the Fez on socials. They will be plugged in the description in the YouTube or the description in Spotify. Make sure you go follow him. The Eyeball Test podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Anywhere you can get your podcast, you can find the Eyeball Test. An incredible show. I was lucky to be on it a couple weeks ago. Cannot wait. We have great NFL football ahead of us, and we will see you in the next one.